Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? Uh, we've had great weather, haven't we, during the lockdown? I hope you're enjoying the good weather this afternoon. It's the 6th of May and we're still locked down. But we're beginning to think in our country about the time when restrictions will be lifted. We're expecting that sometime over this weekend that the government is going to make some announcements. And it's made me think about when we get let out, when our children get let out, and what is going to happen. And it strikes me that our teenagers have been in a very unnatural environment for them to be constantly with their parents and with their families. And I'm sure that they are planning when they're talking together what they're going to do when they get out and when they can meet again together. And I know that over the summer, particularly the summer after GCSEs, when young people have worked so hard, parents often think, well, I remember that long summer, that first taste of sort of adulthood, and they deserve it, and they do. And you may have been facing that prospect anyway. And this summer is going to be no different, although some of the pressure of work may have been lifted or some of the stress of exams may have been lifted. They are still desperate to get out and to spend time with one another, celebrating and enjoying life. So just a little thing that I would say from my own experience is that you can't put them back in the box. Once you allow them that little taste of being more grown up, parents often think, oh, well, once they get back into sixth form, then they'll get back into that heads down, working hard, and this sort of slightly adult partying, trying life out sort of thing will just get put back in the box. It never quite does. So once it happens, it's there, and you need to ongoingly have wisdom to deal with it. So today I'm going to look at some of the things we can do to be the loud voice in our children's lives, because they have many voices. We want to be one that is heard. How we can continue to influence them when we think that they probably aren't needing us as much as they did. And some words of sort of experience, because my three have gone through this now. The youngest is 19. And so just some sort of reflections on my experience. And just talking about how to begin to engage in conversations to prepare yourself and your teenagers for what happens. A lot of what I'm saying is based on one of my Care for the Family courses that I facilitate, the teenage years. This is a 7-session course, that's 14 hours. I'm not going to do the course justice, really. So some of it is my own reflections and some of it is sort of advice that comes from this. It's not a substitute for doing the sort of whole course and sort of getting all the thoughts and feelings in order and sort of layering one on top of another and building up sort of parenting skills. So I can't say this is any kind of replacement, but I hope it's a help. And you may feel from hearing this that you would like to do a full course at Salway Evangelical Church. If you are anywhere near us in Woodford Green in Redbridge, then you are welcome to get in touch with us and see when we're holding one of these courses. But if you go to the Care for the Family website, they have courses registered all over the country, and you can find one near you. And you can also, I think, access some online events that are happening at the moment. So that might be well worth a look. Do go to their website. All kinds of parents and parenting issues are dealt with there, with lots of different resources available. So, preparing for when our teenagers are set free. Parents often feel when their children become teenagers that they just aren't quite needed anymore. They're not listened to anymore. That our teens find new groups that are their key influencers. And it's true that there are many influences on our teenagers, but what quality of influence is there? So there's school, which gives them facts in terms of sort of managing their sort of emerging into adult life, things like drug information, alcohol facts and figures, a little bit of citizenship. It's really too little and often too late. Friends. We know that they listen to their friends. They talk endlessly about, what they're doing, about relationships, about pressures of work, about all sorts of things. But of course, they're all really as ignorant as each other. And do we want their friends, their peers, to be the ones speaking into their lives? And that's the main advice that they take. TV, internet, magazines, teen culture, all these things are things that influence their thinking. But again, it might not be the values that we want them to have. And of course, then there are their parents and their family. That's us. Let me tell you what teenagers really need. What teenagers need most of all is a sense of belonging. And what they're developing in their teen years most of all is their own sense of identity, which is different from just purely, being us. We have been a very great part of their identity, and they're experimenting with maybe being different, having different values and different approaches to us. But it's true to say that teenagers need us. We are their foundation, and our voice is more influential than they let us know. They might even actively tell us that we are no influence. We don't understand, we know nothing. But actually, they're listening and heeding much more than they let on. And that need to belong. Well, of course, we want them to belong with us, and we need to work on that. If they really feel that they belong with us, that they have a place with us, then they don't need to go out and find those places where they belong so strongly elsewhere. For example, children from homes that struggle to provide that sense of identity might find themselves in very strong friendship groups or even gang culture situations, because that's where they get that strong sense of belonging and identity. So we want to keep a sense of family identity in their mix, don't we? We want to be able to instill in them from that sense of family, good values, fun and tradition, and making time for one another. So those are the things that we need to do for them and with them. Fun, family fun is a great bonder. We often establish a close friendship because we can talk and spend time easily with those that we become close friends with. We just click. And that's not necessarily from having deep conversations, although that's part of it. It's partly because we have fun together and we just bond in certain ways. We need to continue to do that and perhaps find more grown-up ways of doing it with our children than we did when they were small. So it might be going out for a curry, whereas before we might have gone to the park. It might be doing other things that are a little bit more grown up, going out for coffee, going and playing snooker with them, all kinds of things, maybe taking up a sport together, or something that you can do as equals, learning together, a Zumba class, or absolutely anything, but a more grown up version of hanging out together. John Sauter, I don't know much of him, but I know these really wise words. A teenager will give up on his parents if they are too busy in their world to help him shape his. I'll say that again. A teenager will give up on his parents if they are too busy in their own world to help him shape his. I think that's really wise words. So when we're spending time together, that's often good for having chat, keeping the lines of communication open, where maybe we're not just focusing, making them look in our eyes and talk to us, but sort of while we're playing tennis together or, sitting watching the world go by in a coffee shop, it's very easy to be able to just have open, natural communication, be able to dwell on a subject for a few moments naturally and move on, revisit it another time. The communication is one of the key tools in a parent of a teenager. But some words of caution. Communication, although it's key, we must remember it's two-way. We must listen at least as much to them as we ask them to listen to us. So you must let them air their views without judging them. You must let them let you into their world. Don't squash their opinions. Don't squash what they have to say. Don't say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," or "That I don't agree with that." No, or, in our family, we think something different. We need to allow them, without judgment, to just say things and just let it hang in the air. Just see how that is. We can gently say, "Oh, there's another way of looking at that." I guess, or put that on its head, or just play with ideas. Let them play with ideas, rather than telling them right and wrong, as we did when they were little. Another good thing, if you have family meals together, is to talk about more grown-up subjects. So, for example, maybe talk about the news, like Mr. Trump is saying some controversial things. That's very easy, just to bring up that and say, "Hey, what does everybody think about Mr. Trump's chances of getting re-elected now?" And allow them space to just play around with that and enjoy engaging in adult conversation in kind of new territory. Lots of stuff we can ask them about. So use the sort of low-key topics to sort of kick it off. Don't sort of wade in with things about keeping up with homework, or have your friends asked you to do drugs or anything like that. Just start bringing in being adults together in other ways. Other ways to help them to feel more grown up and feel that they're treated with the respect of grown-ups at home now they're getting older. We've talked about before, giving them responsibility, giving them chores around the house. We often start with tidy your own room, which is always an ongoing battle, but you may want them to serve the community of your family in things that you do together. So you may ask them to prepare a meal once a week. You may want to ask them to clean communal areas of the home. You need to show them and teach them, don't expect them to know. But you may want to ask them to dust the front room, learn how to kind of manage dusting or wiping over bookcases. That is quite a skill. Things like washing floors, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the oven. These are skills they need to know, and it's because we are trusting them as adults. You need to explain, now you're older, I want you to be treated like an adult. That's more responsibility and more trust. So here's some responsibility, and we'll think about the trust as well. We'll come on to that. Another area of responsibility is asking them to make the decisions about things that they're doing. So I'd like to go and meet my friends in the park. Okay, well, don't tell them when they're coming back. Ask them when you're coming back. They need to start making small decisions. Of course, they need to be trustworthy. And if they don't stick to that, then obviously you need to just revisit that and say, well, you promised me or you told me a certain time, and that didn't happen. So, you may want to talk about what happens as a result, or the reasons why it's important that they come back when they're told, or when they have told you, sorry. Another way of helping your children to communicate or to communicate with them is to just know what your boundaries are in the house. Together, agree what boundaries are in your home. When they were small, they may have known we don't throw things, we don't hit each other, but now what are the parameters? Now they're teenagers. Sit down together, we've said this before, and include things in your house agreement that includes the things that are now your issues. So phones, screens, internet use, dating. You can your boyfriend, girlfriend is always welcome if you have one here, and you can ask to be in the front room or the back room, but we won't have you have boyfriends and girlfriends up in your bedroom. That's not something we do in our house. But also, you need to think about rules about when they go out with their friends. When you go out, always please make sure you have your phone charged and that you have it on. Always please come home in with a group of friends, because that's safe. But if you find you're stuck, always phone one of us, and one of us will come and get you. And we won't mind if we're asleep or whatever, but please always contact. So house rules about the teenage parameters in life. I just want to say hi, Queena, how are you? It's really good to see you. You're investing early in your children's teen years. It's good to talk to your friends, talk to your children about friends. It's good that they have good friends, and please encourage them in their friendships and to build up really positive friendships, and to build up those ones where you feel that they are a good influence. Good friends are a source of safety. So do just reflect with them, say, oh, I really love your friend Jake. I always think that he's a really loyal friend. Mention what are their good qualities, the good qualities of their friends. And you may want to say to your teenager, I know so-and-so let you down. I really value how you made up with them, how you forgave them. Point out to them the values of good friendship that they have. They need to build up a picture of what a good friend is, not just for friendships, but for romantic friendships, so that they get a good sense of what a good friend is like, and how a good friend won't let them down, how a good friend won't ask them to do things they're not comfortable with. So just sort of bring those into low-key ways in their talking about their friendships. And then once we're allowed to go into each other's houses, I suggest you make your house a really welcoming and appealing place for teenagers to be. It's much better to know where they are, who they're with, and what they're doing, broadly speaking. So always have some pizza. Say, oh, after you've been out to the park, come back. I've got pizza, and I'll give you and all your friends, pizza and chips or pizza and garlic bread or whatever you can muster. We've got chocolate ice cream. Make it an appealing place to be. It's much better that they're safe in your home. But again, have parameters. When my children were 11 and they went to secondary school, I said, you're always welcome to bring your friends home to our house. But I don't want to have people here who have too much to drink. Now, as 11-year-olds, they thought that was hilarious. But saying it at that point did save us some difficulties later on in life, because they knew what our standard was in our house. Another good thing is for teenagers to have goals to work towards. So goals affect behaviour positively because they know that if they mess up, they'll spoil their own plans. So just a very blunt example, I don't want to sleep with my boyfriend to get pregnant because I want to go to university. I don't want to get completely smashed before my exams because I want to do well. They just help to put another spin on it. So always encourage them to have good goals and also have good relationship goals. We'll come on to that in a little bit, but having good relationship goals in romantic relationships and looking to the future is a good way to think about, if you like, deferred gratification. So another way of communicating is just in a general family situation, say at the table, to just talk, maybe in general, not at anyone in particular, just to say, I've got concerns about life after lockdown. I think everyone's going to be like wanting to invite us round, and I do think that's going to be quite pressured. I may feel that we can't accept every invitation. Just talk about things, how you will deal with it. You might want to say, after lockdown finishes, I'm really concerned about the level of work, what I'm going to have on my plate, and whether I'm going to be able to cope with it. I think I'm going to have to speak to my boss and just ask for his advice. Just talk about things, because these are pressures that they're going to have with socializing and with their work. So just talk about how you will deal with it. Don't then force the issue and ask them directly, boldly, how are you going to deal with it when you just leave space. They may want to just reflect quietly. They may want to respond. Often they want to respond in the middle of the night, don't they? But just let that hang in the air. Don't make other people answer you. And another thing I would say is that sometimes an overheard conversation is also a great word. So you and your partner may speak to one another where the children can hear you, but they're not directly in the conversation. Or you may be having a phone call with Granny and just talking it through with her, or sharing your thoughts and feelings, and they can listen in and understand this is a grown-up conversation about grown-up concerns, and I can relate to that. And it gives them some pointers of how they can manage their lives. I want to give you some warnings about getting your point across. We want to firmly instill good values in our teens, but lecturing, laying down the law, shouting, or berating, or not letting them speak is not a way to do it. You will not get anything but resentment, and you will shut down your lines of communication, which are the most important thing. So just keeping that family sort of value of keeping communication open, bringing your teenagers much more into your adult world by the culture that you create in your home, but by you entering their world when you listen to them and you help them to discover their own thoughts and feelings, values and points of view as you do that. So that's what I've said so far. I want you to think now about you just being aware of what some of their pressures are, putting a message into yourself before you try and give any messages out. So just reflect, first of all, what are the pressures that my teenagers are under? And of course, we have to sort of read between the lines or guess sometimes, but we can know from our own teenage years that risky sexual behavior and additional things that we never had to deal with, like sexting, is a thing. There might be things like in school life, like bullying or truancy. There might be things that they're being drawn into, like porn, or pressured into making purchases that they'd rather not, but everyone else has got one. Come on, you should get one. Or pressured into buying things that they shouldn't have, that aren't good for them. There is the pressure into all kinds of behavior that they don't agree with. It starts quite often when they're 11. So my niece was had pressure put on her not to wear a coat to school. And she disagreed with that. It was a behavior she did not agree with, because no one else would wear their coats to school, even when it was raining, snowing, freezing, blowing a gale. And she said, no, I'm going to wear my coat on top of my school uniform. She disagreed with it and she stuck to her guns. It gave her a real sense of identity when it came to her friends wanting to drink too much. So I really applaud her for that. And it really helped her in the future. So help them with the small pressures, and it helps them in future to continue to be different. Other things they might be tempted to or pressured into is smoking, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, carrying knives and weapons, belonging to a gang or a sort of close, unhelpful group of friends. So I would say, first of all, message in. Parents, make yourselves aware of the facts. Rather, we think all kinds of dreadful thoughts, but discover the facts. Make yourself aware of what they are, how these things happen, what consequences are, physical consequences, psychological consequences. And just hold on to that. Don't then let it come out of your mouth quite like that. But I would say, again, enter your teenagers' world. Get alongside them in some of their downtime in the home. Watching TV is actually a really good thing to do with them. They want to watch the most dreadful things, like Love Island. My daughter used to love Made in Chelsea, which is absolutely hateful, in my opinion, I have to say. But she loved it, and I watched it with her. And we could have conversations about the values that we saw in the lives of those people. And it was really, really valuable. It wasn't easy, but it was valuable. And I would say, don't say, oh, look at that behavior. What are they thinking? Ask an open question. What? Oh, do you think that's being a good friend? Or, you know, why do you think she's done that? Why did she say that? Ask them questions and let them explore sort of those adult values and thoughts and feelings. Yes, you might say, I don't think I would value that in my friends. I think that you could look at that another way. So try and put it openly and non-judgmentally, and keep the conversation going. There may come a time when you realize that you hear something you don't want to, that your teenager has been involved in a behavior that you wish they hadn't, whether that's experimenting with sexting, which we've talked about, or smoking, or drinking, or even doing something that we would think quite risky or unwise at their age, like having sex. It's better that they tell you. We often avoid the subject because we dread hearing that information. But if we don't talk about it, then it's more likely to happen. But if it has happened, the most important thing for them to know is you absolutely support them, and you support them to work through their feelings. You may need to ask for more help. You support them to try and reframe their approach to that behavior, help them to put boundaries in place so it doesn't happen again until they're ready. And just let them know this, it really doesn't change your feelings towards them at all. That is more important than anything. Also, when we're talking to our children about giving the message out, so we've made ourselves aware of the facts. We don't want to berate them or lecture them, but we want them to find their own ways of having these good values. We want them to discover their own good values, which are based on ours, that over time will evolve into their way of doing life. So we want to say to them, you know, when you're out with your friends, make sure that you feel safe. And if something unexpected happens, or you're asked to do something unexpected, you need to know what your own thoughts and beliefs on that are, whatever it is. You need to make sure that you don't get pressured into making a quick decision that maybe you won't be happy with later. So one good question to ask yourself is, have I had enough time to think? And if your instinct is no, or I don't want to do that, then really think carefully, because you can't undo lots of things afterwards. So in specific areas, you might want to have them to think about, well, we were talking about having good relationship values. Instead of saying, what are you going to do when you go out with so-and-so on Saturday night? Think at big picture. When you find that really special person, think how you'd like them to be committed to you and you to be committed to them in a special way. Oh, sorry, I'm get bonged out. Sorry about that. So one thing is, yes, safe sex is better, but saved sex might be a better option again. So always help them to know that what situations they're in, and you may want to talk through these things of drink, drugs, alcohol, that being drawn into bullying or put under pressure to buy things, whatever it is, that there are alternatives. And part of this is being able to think through what they want life to be like. What are their personal values? So do you like it when you're out of control? You might feel out of control in situations where mum and dad just say no. There are other times when you feel out of control, when your friends are putting pressure on you to do something, to smoke or to drink or to pick on somebody that you disagree with. Think, what are alternatives to that? So, do encourage them to think about that and be able to talk to them about particular issues that they might be going through. For us as adults, we need to just make them aware sometimes of what is in the mind of others. So another good thing to say to them is, if you don't want to do something, think about the person who's pressuring you. Why are they doing that? It could be that they don't really want to do it, or they don't want to do it on their own. So they want you to do it as well, so that at least somebody else is doing it with them. They've got that sort of group mentality, that sort of, well, we're all doing it together, so it's not so bad. Don't be pressured into doing it for someone else's insecurities. Also make them aware of the agendas of others when they're older, when they're 17, 18. One thing I was horrified about was my daughter didn't understand why men bought her drinks when she was out in a group of girls, or two girls, if they two guys or two girls together and they bought them some drinks. She wasn't really savvy about that. I was horrified. So do just talk to them about the agendas or the motivations of others. Have I got anything else to say? Yes. So if they're feeling under pressure, it's good to give teenagers who are just beginning to experience this, getting into that house party situation in life, some key hacks or phrases that help them to get out of a situation where they're uncomfortable. So talk to them. If someone's trying to put pressure on you to go into a room with them on their own, or to go off with them on their own, or to do something you're not happy with, to keep drinking and you don't want to, say, you can say things like, I need to go to the toilet. You can go and lock yourself in the loo for 2 or 3 minutes and just take a deep breath and make a plan. You can phone me in the toilet, and then we can talk about it together, and decide what you're going to do, or if I'll come and get you. You can say, oh, I'm so sorry, I need to go and find my friends now. But teaching them to be assertive is good. Teaching them to say, I don't want another drink, I'm not ready for that yet, is good. Or not today, I don't want to do that today. And help them to rehearse a few phrases that will help them. And remember, again, always another thing they can say is, I'm phoning my parents now to pick me up. That's a really good one, and a way in which you show that you are helping them navigate through life. I haven't touched on much with internet. If you're worried about children and the internet, teenagers and the internet, as we all are, I've got this great book called Left to Their Own Devices, which I can highly recommend. It's by Catherine Hill. It's called Confident Parenting in a Digital World, or in a World of Screens, sorry. And it's very practical. It helps us as parents to navigate all the way through. In each chapter, it deals with a different aspect, and each chapter has what can parents do section at the end of it. So do have a look at that. You can buy it. You won't be surprised to hear from me, from the Care for the Family website. There's another website that I want to point you to for children of all ages. It's called Think You Know, with the U is just the letter U. And that is from the CEOP, which I'll tell you what that is. It's the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command. And they have lots of really great things for all different age groups to help keep them safe, and to help you as parents talk to your children about online safety. So I hope that's been of some use to you, thinking about how to build up relationships with your teenagers now, how to build up lines of communication. I would say the most important thing that you can do as a parent of a teenager is to keep the lines of communication open and not be judgmental. And whatever comes in your direction along that line of communication, deal with it. Oh, just some practical things. It's come to me that I thought that I would do. My children, they might not be pleased. I also did it to my mother, came home the worse for wear. What I actually did: number one, don't berate them. don't say anything, just deal with it calmly and kindly. There's no point telling them off when they're worse for wear because they won't remember it. So just save that for when you're both calm and whatever. I would say keep them upright. You may find you're sitting up half the night with them. Keep them upright if you can. Bucket on the lap works well. If they do go to bed, I would say cover both the duvet, tuck around the duvet, over the pillow and over the bottom sheet, towels, old towels. Cover the carpet with newspaper. Put a bucket by the bed. Keep their door open and your door open so you can hear if there are any developments you need to run in and help them with. If you can get them into the bathroom, so much the better. And just keep calm. If their bed is a high bed, make up a camp bed. Do not attempt to get them up and down from a high bed. And just from personal experience, vomit, a cascade 6 foot down the wall is not desirable and very difficult to clean up. So yeah, camp beds rather than high beds for sure. And yeah, and still newspaper all around. Yeah, and just get through it. It's only one night. We did it to our parents, I'm sure, and they do it to us. It's part of growing up. You can reflect on it when they're calmer, or soberer, and just put it down to experience for both of you. Okay, so I hope that's useful, and I will see you next Wednesday for more parenting in a pandemic.